In previous lessons, you learned to use paragraph styles to format text, and paragraph styles work well if all of the text you want to format has the same left and right margins across the page. But what if you have text formatted in more than one column, such as a caption birdcage? For example, my title page lists the caption in what is sometimes known as a birdcage, with the parties listed in one column on the left, a column of closed paren symbols, and then the case number in a column on the right. Tables are the most efficient way to format text in multiple columns. As the caption is the next item that needs to be created in the title page we've been working on, our next step will be to create a table for the caption information. The first step to creating a table is to make sure you are using page view and not normal view. Page view includes ruler bars, which will be necessary to adjust the margins for each column of the table we create. To insert a table, I'll click Edit, Table, Insert Table. As we saw earlier, our caption has 3 columns, so at the columns prompt, I'll enter the number 3. The number of rows is determined by 2 factors: the number of different types of horizontal alignment required, and whether there is a need to separate the table across a page break. Although you can create separate rows for each possible line of text, it is not necessary to have a separate row for each new line. All of the text in all 3 columns of my caption is aligned to the left margin, and unless it's an exceptionally long caption, it's unlikely to span across a page break, so I'll leave the rows set at 1 for this table. After inserting a table, press Enter. This will display the complete grid line around the table you created, making it easy for you to see where each column and row begins and ends. Catalyst has inserted 3 table cells, 1 for each column. Currently, they are all the same width. However, our caption doesn't have 3 equal-sized columns. The first column is the widest. The middle column is just wide enough to permit 1 closed paren symbol per line, and the column on the right takes up the remaining space. So we need to adjust each column to its proper width. To adjust the width of a column, you will first need to position your cursor inside the table cell that you want to adjust. For example, I'm going to position my cursor here in the cell in the middle. Now, notice up here on the toolbar that you have the left and right margin sliders that will correspond to the position of the left and right margins for text. When you hover on the slider for either margin, Catalyst tells you the exact position in inches the text will appear. Now, if you know the exact position where your text should appear, you can just click and drag the slider to that position. I could figure that out by using a ruler and measuring the position on a printed page, measuring from the edge of the page over to the position of the text. So for example here, it appears that the closed paren symbol should line up at just a little bit past the 5-inch mark. So in my file, I can click and drag the left margin slider over until it reads a little bit past 5 inches. I'm going to go ahead and type some parens into this column to see where they're going to line up. Obviously, this column is a little too wide right now, because I can fit more than 1 closed paren symbol per line. So now I'll adjust the right margin until only 1 closed paren symbol will fit on each line. The line that appears when I click and drag helps me see where the margins will be and where the text will be forced to wrap to the next line. That's looking pretty good. The next thing I'll do is type the rest of the text and insert the fields that I need into this table, and then based on how the information fits, I can further adjust the left and right margins for each column until everything looks the way I want it to. I'll position my cursor in the first column. I can do that by either pointing and clicking in that column, or if I prefer to use the keyboard to navigate, I can use the arrow keys. Just an FYI, pointing and clicking is faster. When you use up and down, left or right arrow keys, you have to press them repeatedly to get past each symbol or character or word or line in each column. Now, I'll go ahead and enter the fields and text that I need. First, I need to insert my plaintiff field. And then press comma, and then press Enter to move to a new line. The next line is blank, so I'll press Enter again. On this line, I need the word plaintiff, but it needs to be tabbed over, so I'll press Tab a couple of times and type plaintiff, comma, and then Enter to go to the next line. The next line is blank, so I'll press Enter again. Now, I need to tab over and type verses. and Enter to go to the next line. Another blank line here, so I press Enter again. Okay, now I need my defendant field, so I'll insert that, and comma, Enter, Enter, and then tab, tab, defendant, period. Enter. And then on the last line, I want a solid line, so I'll hold down my underscore key until it reaches the end. Oops, that's a little too long, so I'll backspace. Great. I clearly need a few more closed parens in my middle column, so I'll click in that column and add a few. Now I'll point and click in the last column and press Enter a few times to move down, and then type N-O, period, and then insert my case number field. Now, I just noticed something that's bugging me. This table is double-spaced, and actually, my caption should be single-spaced. No problem. I just need to add the single-spaced on and single-spaced off format symbols before and after the table. I'll position my cursor here just before the table begins. The shortcut key for single-space on is F4 Shift plus S. The text that I'll type after this table should be double-spaced, so I'll go to the end of my table and press F4 lowercase s to insert the single-space off format symbol. Excellent! I've created a caption that's formatted efficiently that will be quick and easy to fill in when I include it into my jobs. Tables aren't just for captions, of course. They also don't necessarily have to have multiple columns either. Tables can also be used anywhere that you need text to wrap automatically to a particular set of left and right margins, and you don't have an available paragraph style. For example, let's take a look at my Appearances page. As you can see, the information for the attorneys' names and addresses are block indented both on the left and the right. Now, sure, I could just press Enter and Tab to indent the text on the left, but there will be times, especially with long firm names, that I want the text I type or fill into a field to automatically wrap to the next line. So when I'm creating the include file for my Appearances page, I can insert a one-column, one-row table to hold all of my attorney information. Again, it's very simple to create a table. I'll position the cursor where the table should be inserted, and then click Edit, Table, Insert Table. For this table, I only need one column and one row, so I'll click OK. I used a ruler and measured the left and right margins for the attorney name and address information on a printed copy of my Appearances page, and the left margin should be at 3½ inches, and the right margin should be at 6 3/4 inches. So, I'll click in the table cell. Now, adjust the margins via the sliders. I'll click and drag the left slider over to 3.5, and then click and drag the right slider over to 6.75. Great! Now I can go ahead and insert fields and text from my appearances. In the next lesson, we'll cover how to do that using fieldless group fields designed specifically for appearances. But now would be a great time to practice creating tables. Go into the Training User and follow the directions for Exercise 4 in the Includes File practice document. Then proceed with the next lesson in order.